Okay, here we are back with another layout update. And this particular project is going to be having to do with, you guessed it, company row houses. This has always been a scene I wanted to depict on the layout, and maybe it's because of me growing up in Ohio, and right across the river was West Virginia. And in doing research, I know that several railroads, but namely the B&O, C&O, and also Norfolk and Western set up company townhomes for their employees. Um, and because I have the coal mining area here, the tipple's out right now because I'm doing some work in this area, but you've seen it in previous videos. But have to have a place for those workers to live and kind of modernize it slightly because this is a slightly modern um, era type layout. But I wanted to, like I said, put this scene on the area. So uh, I guess it could be a dual purpose area because also some of the workers may work in the steel mill and the last days of that. So I had already had a landform that I had built up, and it looked okay. It kind of started at the level of the where the houses are now, and kind of went uphill towards the steel mill. The only thing that I just didn't care for is that at the top of the hill it kind of went nowhere, and I guess it could have been um, in the foreground of the steel mill, but to me it just looked like it needed to go somewhere, and I just couldn't do that and make that happen. And it was just kind of bothering me for the longest. But I have images of that I'll put somewhere on the video so you can see what I did have previous to what I'm about to do. So I want to make sure when it's all said and done that the uh, workers in these houses have a pathway or a sidewalk or a some kind of way that they travel to get to work, which is probably going to be some kind of um, pathways out from their houses, and want to make sure that that's visible. So that's one of the end goals. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just get a basic landform that's going to be made out of pink extruded foam that I'll cut the form and place back there because of course I don't, as much as possible on the layout, because it is a smaller layout, I want to make sure I have as many undulations in the landform as possible, as I don't want it to be flat. So we'll do that and make sure that the houses, have some kind of variation as far as the level that they're on. That would be kind of cool, I think. But I honestly don't know where the project is going to go. I just know what I have to incorporate in it, um, that I want to have in it, before it's all said and done. So um, that's the interesting thing about it is you start with one thing, and then as you go on, you realize there are other things you can do, and it becomes takes on a whole life of its own. So without further ado, and me rambling on, let me go ahead and get the basic landform in, and I'll be back once that part of the project is complete. Okay, here we are on the next step, where the foam has been carved to shape, and I've got the row houses sitting on 1 inch pink foam, and so we're getting through the project. So the next step is to do some plaster cloth over the back hillside. I'm not going to do it in the front. Um, because I'm gonna detail that. So I'll start by just painting the platform with the houses on it, and then the ground foam and all the other details that I'm gonna do. But the section in the back, we'll have we'll have plaster cloth on it, and then do some rock molds, and then greenery around that section. I think that's the way to go. So both sections will be able to be pulled out. The section where the houses is sitting on, that section is a separate section that I can pull out separately to detail or to work on or to get access to. And then when it's time to wire or put the lighting in the homes, that'll be much easier. And then also the same with the back. If I just need to work on the hillside or do something with that, I can also pull that out. It's just a lot easier than having one huge section that I would have to pull out. Even though with doing that, I would just take the houses off, and it wouldn't have been too bad. But I just wanted to make it a lot easier because it's in a very awkward section of the layout, very awkward corner. So this is where we're at right now, and pretty much have the houses marked where I want to. Have some ideas of what I want the outcome to be, but I'm just taking one step at a time. So the next time I come back with you, I should have the plaster cloth down, and the section where the houses are sitting on, that section of pink foam, should be painted. That is the goal. So back to work. All right, here we are back with the next step complete as promised. So what I did, as you can see, we do have the plaster cloth put on the hillside. What I did though is I got some brown construction paper, crumbled it up, and put that on right after the pink foam, and it gave me kind of a rough base that the pink foam didn't. And originally I had thought of the hillside being a lot smoother, but the more I thought about it, I wanted a more rough texture. So it's pretty subtle, as you don't see it bulking out as much, but there are some undulations and contours in the hillside. I don't know if you can see alongside there. But it is very subtle. I didn't want too many because I'm actually going to put some rock casting down, but there are some undulations that I think help with that process and that look I'm going for. And also just enough so that I can still put rock castings down and have that presentable. So I've done that and put the plaster cloth over that, and that came out pretty good. I also did go ahead and paint the base for the homes. It's actually still wet, so I went ahead and sprinkled down some ground foam, and I put down this stuff by Dennis Brennan called Brennan's Natural Earth, and it's the coarse texture first, just to have that under foundation for the green. I think it looks a lot more natural. So I put that down, then I put some of the green foam down, and that gives me a nice base. So things are moving right along. If you look closer to the wall at the back, that'll all be covered up. Those little openings there will be covered up with some kind of shrubbery or trees or something, so it won't be noticeable. And you just got to be very creative with the way these walls are. I try to be anyway. So what's next? Next is to get the rock formations on the plaster cloth. Originally I was going to put, let me see if I can locate them, these right here. I cut them up. They're prefabricated rocks, and I still may use some here and there, but I got another idea with some rock formations I want to use, and I'm going to see if that produces a really nice result like I anticipate it will. So I'll get those on first and then tell you how I did it, and a little bit more detailing on the house base. I think I want to go ahead next and get maybe the dirt sidewalks in, maybe a little bit more greenery. I don't want to do too much with the trees and all that until the back hillside is complete and I don't have to reach over that stuff. So that's what we have coming up next, and let me go ahead and get back to work. All right, guys and gals, here we are back with the completed hillside. So what I've done is I've actually used for the hillside or the rocks, I tried a technique. It's not my own, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but it's actually the Lemax rocks that you get from Christmas that come in sets with trees. I actually used that, something that I learned online, and tried to paint it up as best as I could. I think it turned out rather well. So first I was concerned how I was going to paint it, but it turned out okay. It comes in like a brownish color, brownish red kind of color, and I actually like that because, as you can see, the texture actually comes through that brown color, which I think is really nice. And so I used a light gray paint, just a little bit. I wouldn't even call it a wash, just a little bit of water mixed in just to get it to go through the crevices. I started with that, and then after that I did put a brownish, like I want to say it was raw umber and a brown color paint, and I did do a wash with that. And then once that was on, I went ahead and did some dry brushing, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. The greenery towards the back, the medium green and the light green you see, is a product from Woodland Scenics, and it's their foliage clusters. So I just ripped pieces off and created that hillside. I was considering puffball trees, but I wanted to just try something different. As we come to the front, I used some Woodland Scenics, these smaller trees, which are really for like in scale, but for the forest perspective, it should be okay. And the reason that I decided to use these is because, as you can see, I think they have trunks, whereas the trees up in the hillside are supposed to be bunched together where you don't see the trunks. So, yes. And then the super tree material from this particular hillside. So now we have a continuous hillside here with these very awkward and vaulted ceilings. So I'm pleased with the project, at least for now. I think it's going to set a nice backdrop for what I'm trying to do in this inlet on the layout around the yard. So what I'm going to do now is put in the house section, which is a diorama that I can have removed for various reasons, especially when I want to do some detailing. So I'm going to set that in there so you can get the overall picture, and then I'll let you go. That'll conclude this layout update. So here we go. All right, here we are with the diorama of the row houses put in. I think that looks pretty good from a distance, and I'm trying to be a little bit more detail oriented, so even though it is from a distance, I have done a lot of details thus far. And we're going to go in for a closer look. I'll start with this corner right here. Some smaller trees there, some hedges I made out of that material you use for potting plants, flowering baskets, or whatever it's called. Some trees that were made on the side of the house. And I think I'm actually going to have to go in a little bit further so that you can see the details in front of the houses. So I'll be back a little bit more inside the layout. Hold on just a sec. All right, here we are with a more close-up view so that you can see more of the details. So if we take a look at this first house here, you can see that there's a lot of shrubbery in the front, overgrown weeds and bushes. That is a product from Scenic Express from the Mark Wahlberg series. He makes a great product, and it photographs and videos very well. And I've been a fan of his for a little while now. But when I started making these videos, I realized how much more I like his product. Over here, you can see my hedges, which I made, and trees that I made, and little corner there. I've got that's screaming for something. I don't know what it is yet, but I've got to put something in there, something clever. But as we move down the row of row houses, no pun intended, you can see that each house has its level of unmaintained lawn, because of course the railroad made provisions for their workers, but with the kind of schedule they have, it leaves no time for yard maintenance. I also have the sidewalks here, dirt sidewalks, which I had contemplated putting some stairwells in, or stairway. I still may do that in some of them, or I may leave it that way. I'm not quite sure. I also need to get some fencing in to keep the families of the workers off the tracks. More trees. I just really like how the hillside peeks through the sections between the homes. It's screaming for detail though, so we'll have to do that for this particular reason. Getting pictures and video. That'll be nice and fun, but I think that looks wonderful. But as I told you earlier, this section with the houses does pull out because of course I'm not going to be climbing over the yard to do detail work. I still need to add lighting and people and those other things I just mentioned. So I'm going to have to be a convenient task to take the whole diorama out. But yeah, this was a fun project. It definitely gives the illusion that the layout is a little bit more finished. I can leave this section alone for a little while if I want, which gives me time to think about some other things I want to add, other details I want to add, while working on other sections of the layout. I guess we can call this layout update complete. So the next thing I'll be working on for the next video update is right here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? So, yeah, I threw a wrench in it for everyone. I'm sure you can immediately see a change, which actually is a good thing if you do. But I had decided that the Woodland Scenics clump foliage wasn't working for me as far as being convincing. I think that material and the way I used it is probably more ideal for HO and N scale. And I also believe if the hillside here was much further away, I could have probably gotten away with it. But as I sat back and constantly looked at what I had done, I was just not happy at all. So I bit the bullet and went ahead and made some trees for that purpose. The trees are really not meant to be foreground trees. They're meant when you need to create a bunch of trees for a forest scene, or you just need to get a lot of coverage. And I basically used this product right here from Woodland Scenics. And of course I did more than just the light green, but it's called their Forest Canopy. And this kit comes with everything you need to build the trees. So I used a few boxes of these with different shades, and I also mixed in some other trees that I had to cover that area up. And of course, the further back the trees are smaller, and then as you get closer to where I'm standing, I made some bigger trees, create a little bit of depth. And also I started with adding, if you can see it, this Pennsylvania hairpin fencing that was so prevalent on that railroad, and painted those and weathered them up. I still have some more that I need to install, but that kind of gives you an idea where I'm going with that. And another big project that I also did, I'll just move the camera over this way, and it's this hillside. I showed glimpses of that earlier, and it was very lush, and I like a lot of green, but not very convincing in my opinion. So I said I need to do all of this over. And I also used the Forest Canopy trees on the top of this as well. So this hillside was made out of resin and painted with several washes and powders to create that look. And you see a hole dead center. That's where the entrance into the coal tipple will go, and the coal tipple comes over the yard here where those pieces of wood are. It sits on top of that and goes over 3 tracks, as you see. I don't have that in yet, but in another video I'll show you what all that looks like in place. But I'm much more pleased with the results here. The tunnel there going through the hillside, I'm going to have to put a grade crossing there. And I also have a highway overpass, or overpass that'll cross over the tracks and lead to a road that will eventually go through that tunnel. So that's where the madness is there. But I also was not happy with the transition from here to over here, so I definitely had to do something about that. So I think the continuity, the trees tie everything in, and I'm much better. As you can see, I'm in a room that has vaulted ceilings. It's my bonus room, and those vaulted ceilings cause a lot of problems, but you just make do and you be as creative as you can to get the results you want, and that's just what I had to do. So what's next? With this scene, of course, I need to as I said, add more of the fencing, um, lighting, of course, in the houses, and people. That's all stuff that is going to take it over the top. I would say that this is probably 50. No, I'm sorry, 90 to 95% complete. And I kind of already alluded to what needs to go on over here. Installing of the cold tipple, the road. The cold tipple does light as well. It's a cold tipple by BTS. So this area is definitely taking shape. I decided to go back because this is further back in the layout, and I try to do all that stuff before I come to the edge of the layout because it just becomes more difficult to do work back there. So I wanted to make sure I was 100% comfortable before I, move forward, literally. So that's what I did, and taking the extra time yielded results that satisfy me. So I think it's safe for me to call this update complete. At this point, I don't think I'm going to make any changes, at least not major changes. If anything, I just will be adding those other aspects that I told you about earlier. So thank you, and I certainly hope that you have enjoyed this update, and we will see you next time.